Hi there, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of The Art of the Master. And this episode, I'm going to cover campaign creation, but this time you're going to follow me from me creating a one-shot, blowing it up into a mini campaign, and then taking it and pumping it up into a full-blown campaign that can last anywhere from 6 months to easily a couple of years. I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to tell you why I do what I do. All right, so why don't you come with me and I'm going to show you how I do campaign creation. Let's go. I'm David Hunt, and welcome back to The Art of the Master. In this episode, I'm going to go over campaign creation, but instead of giving you a bunch of ideas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a one-shot, and then after that, I'm going to expand upon it and create a mini campaign, and then after that, I'm going to blow it up into a full-blown campaign that I can keep running for a year or more. And I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to show you the reasons why I do what I do. So let's get started. So what are we looking for in a one-shot? We're going to look for about 4 hours of playtime, give or take. Now, depending on what happens, you might have to chop it up and make it a two-parter, but typically on a one-shot, your goal is to try to get it all in one night, and typically, most people can usually set aside about 4 hours to do it. Now, what genre are we going to run? Well, for ease of game play, we're going to just call it fantasy. Why? Because that's one of the easiest genres to get going in the shortest amount of time. Now, there's a lot of different options I can do for a one-shot, a lot of different tasks I'd have my players do, but the most common is the rescue. That's real simple. So we're at the Kingdom of Sunset, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have King Landry. This is going to be part of my notable NPCs. And it's assumed that there's a lady. If I don't write anything down, I just assume that I can introduce that information at any time. If I decide there's going to be a Lady Landry, or I need to introduce her, I will write it down as the game progresses. So I got King and Lady Landry. I've got the Captain of the Guard, Joe Quinn. And of course, I assume there's assorted NPCs. Now in this Kingdom of Sunset, it's a coastal town, which means there's going to be mountains nearby, or perhaps even large bluffs along the coast. And that could come in handy. Also, we know that Sunset's going to be a port town. Why? Because I already said it's a coastal town. Sounds good. Now, what's this rescue about? Well, it's quite simple. The king's daughter, Ilea, has been taken by the dragon Dogon. Pretty simple. The king basically approaches the players, or actually, tell you what, this is what the king's going to do. At the only port tavern in town, the players are drinking. The king's men find the PCs, and they tell the PCs that the king requests an audience with the PCs. So the king's men brings the PCs. If you're not familiar with PC in role-playing, that's not politically correct. It is player character. That's the character the player is running. So the king's men brings the PCs to the castle, and that is where he tells them the mission. Now, obviously, I might not say it like this. I'm trying to go kind of quick for the sake of the video and for the sake of getting my ideas out there. Of course, when I'm running it, I can dress this up pretty easy. And this whole part right here, this doesn't appear like nothing, but once we get the game rolling, by the time I describe sunset itself and the town and how nice it is or how rugged it is. It's a port city. I give the quick background about why the kingdom is called Sunset. Well, because when the sun sets on the horizon, it has this beautiful sunset. So they call the town Sunset because of the beautiful sunsets on the ocean, or from behind the mountains, or wherever you decide wherever I decide this place is going to be set. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The place has beautiful sunsets. That's why they call it Sunset. So, and then of course you have a little bit of tension there because the king's men come to the players. They stand around. They can be kind of ominous. Have the players maybe make some skill checks, some insight rolls to see what's going down with these armed men. And then someone realizes, and it should be a pretty easy roll, 5 up. Because you don't want these players to throw down with these guys before your game even started. And there's no need, because that's not the point. So you say, hey, you recognize that these guys are the king's men. And one of them approaches you, says, I'm Captain Joe Quinn, and the king requests your presence at the castle. And of course, if the players resist, you can always say, and of course at this point the players have no idea that's going to be a rescue mission. And what I decided to do is with Joe Quinn, I can say, look, the king doesn't just request, he desperately needs your help. But he'll say so quietly so everybody else won't hear in the tavern. So the players are going to go to the king's castle, and that's where the king's going to lay it out. He's going to say, hey, look, and this is what I'm going to do. When the players get there, the king's going to tell them, look, my daughter's been taken by the fierce dragon, Dogon. And where does Dogon live? Well, it's a coin toss. I could either put him in the mountains or in the bluffs near the ocean. I think what might be fun is perhaps I'm going to draw a quick map, kind of a side view of from the water of what I imagine sunset to be. So here's sunset. This is notes that I need to have. Here's sunset right here. There's some big bluffs over here, and these are kind of sheer, but there's a way in the back to get up there to the bluffs. And here's, it's all rocky and the waves crash here. This is the shoreline right here. And this is the port town right here with all the piers and the buildings. And in the background on the hill is maybe the big castle right there. The moat or whatnot on the windows. Okay, so that's what I think it looks like from the water. So the king says, Dogon the dragon came to the castle and stole my daughter away. I have summoned you because I have heard stories of your tales of adventure in other lands, and since arriving, this has happened, and I figured you are the best ones to go retrieve my daughter. My Captain Joe Quinn is experienced, but he doesn't have enough experienced men to go accomplish this, and I believe you can. And of course, you reward the players with a decent amount of gold, maybe a couple magic items, some small stuff. That's probably what I'm going to do. Give them each a +1 magic dagger or something. I don't know. Whatever I feel like giving them. Now remember, now a one-shot, this is probably going to be a very low-level adventure. So characters are going to typically be tier 1, so you're probably looking level 1 to 5. And quite frankly, I like being around level 1 to level 3 because I really enjoy lower levels, but that's okay. It can be up to 5, it doesn't matter. And this adventure, what's nice about this is if I want to, I could pump this up to be a much, much tougher adventure. So let's say they're all level 1. So what am I going to do with the dragon? Well, I'm getting to that. So the players accept. They're going to want to run around town and get outfitted. They're going to ask the king for some stuff. So all this is probably going to easily take up the first 30 to 45 minutes of my one-shot. So you can see how quickly a one-shot gets eaten up. I mean, just starting out, telling them about the kingdom, telling them where they're at, describing their surroundings, telling them about the journey they've had there, and just settling some general questions. And, usually I'll give players about 10 or 15 minutes, get settled, talk to the tavern guy or whatnot. You hear any news, da-da-da-da, let them run around town for a few minutes. Well, hey, can I get this? Can I buy that? Oh, yeah, sure. I'll throw that stuff their way. And just because they're starting at level 1 doesn't mean I'm going to start them broke. I might say, why don't everyone just get a +1 magical weapon, or you can have a couple extra healing potions instead, and I'm going to throw a couple extra gold your way. Does it imbalance the game? No. Why? Because I'm the dungeon master, and the whole universe is at my beck and call. It's not going to matter what I give the players. So I've got it all set up. The players know where they're at, they know where they're starting, they get settled in. That takes about 15 minutes. The king requests them and they go there. The king talks to them. The players might bargain a little bit, or I might decide to emphasize some things to the players. Maybe how the king sits in his chair, how stern he is. I also choose my words very carefully, because when the players are there, the king says that the dragon Dogon has taken my daughter. I want you to go get her. I've heard stories about your adventures in the past, and I believe you are the right men and women for the job. Now, you can say, well, what other adventures could your players possibly do if they're level 1? Well, the players, by default, in any role-playing game, even if they're low-level flunkies, even if they're just these level 1 podunk beginning characters, your player characters are still supposed to be the cream of the crop compared to everybody else in the game. Now, of course, they're still going to build up level and experience. I know this, we all know this, but there's something that sets the players apart from other people. Even if the king, if you don't feel comfortable about the king just saying that, and you just assuming that in order for them to get to level 1, they've had to have some kind of adventure to push them over the top to make them level 1, well then fine. Maybe they're just the most rugged looking people in town. And, you know, the king says they're strangers and it doesn't matter. They look rough and tough. And the captain of his guard, even though the captain of the guard, Joe Quinn, is very tough and a capable fighter, you know, his men have never faced anything like that. And Joe Quinn needs to stay at the side of the king and the lady in case the dragon comes back. So Joe Quinn can't go by default because he has to stay and protect the king. Okay, now we're moving on. So the king, I choose my words carefully, says, the dragon Dogon has taken my daughter. You must go get her. Please rescue her. Thankfully, the king knows some information. He knows that the dragon went north because here, let's say this is the coast, this is the east. So I'm looking at it from the east, the west is in the background. This is south, this is north. So there's let's say there's big mountains in the background. There's these large mountains in the background I just got to remember about. And up here, this is west, and in the foreground is east. That way I've got a sense of an idea of what the world is about, at least in this local area, because your players are going to ask you that, and they're going to ask me that. So I'm going to say there's a mountain range back to the west. The kingdom's right here, and the low spot right next to the coast. Basically, woods to the south, and light woods scattered all the way around. And then you have these bluffs up here where there's probably more light woods or sparse woods. The king says he doesn't know exactly where the dragon went, but the dragon went north and took his daughter north. Now, if you want to, you could just easily say that the dragon has been seen coming and going from these bluffs. You can even say flying in and out of these bluffs. And let's cover that. I'm going to say the dragon flew in and out of these bluffs. There's a cave, and men from the ships have seen the dragon fly in and out of this cave before. And if the players ask me, well, what kind of dragon is it? Say, no one knows. We just know that Dogon rules this area with an iron fist, and no one's ever been powerful enough to kill him yet. And the player's like, okay, so they'll go. So they get their stuff and they quest and they go up here. I really shouldn't, especially in a 4-hour scenario, a one-shot like this, I shouldn't fool around. I need to get them up there. Now, what I might do is, I do like to have a little bit of a day-night change. So they're going to journey for a little bit, probably about halfway. I'll make them camp, and it'll be dark then. So the players can camp, and during that time, what I might do is I might throw maybe a hungry wolf out there, or maybe a couple of bandits. And the bandits, I'm just going to label them as commoners. That's all I'm going to do. Make it super easy on the players, because my goal is to not kill the players before they even get to the big fight. This is a one-shot. You know, I want to get them to the big stuff. Now, in the woods, this can easily eat up another 30 minutes easy. At least 20. So they're going to be in the woods. And obviously someone's going to stay awake. They're going to do shifts. And with that guy doing shift work, I'll have him, roll a perception check, because he's paying attention, he's listening. And what I'll do is I might assume that either the wolf or these two bandits, they're far enough, deep enough back in the woods where not even the light of the fire can stretch, and beyond the sight of any night vision of any character. So the difficulty is real high. So they got to roll the passive perception. Okay, give me a roll of passive perception. It's going to be like 20, 25, something like that. If they make it, I just tell them, you got a bad feeling about this. But I'm hoping that he's going to miss it once or twice so I can build up tension. So say he misses it the first time, and then I say, okay, so look around, you're feeling easy, but everything seems to be okay. A couple hours go by, you're going deep into your shift. Is there anything particular you're doing? And the player, maybe he might wake up somebody else, or he might walk around. Why I look into the woods? I'll ask him, how far do you go? Are you holding the torch with your right hand or your left hand? Do you have a weapon out? What are you going to do? Not saying there's combat, but I'm asking all these little questions. And you can even do silly stuff too. I wouldn't do it all the time, but all right, when you step forward, so you're listening, and then when you step forward to go into the woods, do you step with your right or your left foot? That drives people crazy. Stuff like that. Why'd you ask something? Why'd you ask that? Who would ask me that question? Just say, well, I just need to know. And they're going to look at you and they're going to wonder. So then what I do, no matter what they say, I say, okay. Give me a dex check. They roll. Even if they blow it, you're like, oh. You just make a note of it. Or if they pass, like, okay, thank you. And then you just roll on. And then they want to ask, they want to know, say, look, man, don't worry about it. It's all part of the game. And it is. It's called bluffing. It's called spooking them. So as these bandits get closer, because they're circling in on this campfire, when you're deep, deep in the woods, it's pitch black, you can see that flame and you can see the whole party outlined. But from the other way, from the players looking into the woods, it's pitch black. Go outside anytime it's pitch black. You'll see what I'm talking about. Or get out of the house and do a little bit of camping. Or just start a fire in your backyard. Of course, you want to use a proper fire pit and all that so you don't catch anything on fire, and be safe, have some water nearby. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So then the bandits strike. As soon as the bandits come out, I'm not going to worry about sneak attack. These guys aren't that bright. They're going to run. I'm just like, guys come out of the woods, roll initiative. And boom, roll initiative. What I'd probably do is since it's a one shot, I just, say that the yelling as the bandits draw their swords and they yell to attack them. It wakes the party up. So what I probably do is, since the bandits initiate the attack, what I probably do is I just automatically put them first in, my two bandits, put them first and second in the initiative order, let them act first, then let all the other players roll off against each other to see who gets to react. That's probably what I'm going to do with that. Super easy to do. Now, let's say my player, right before they attack, maybe the guy who's being a sentry, maybe the guy who's standing watch, maybe he makes his perception check and realizes there's bandits in the woods and they're getting ready to attack. Or you see movement, there's people in the woods, quick, roll initiative. And what I do is maybe I'd give the bandits initiative at disadvantage and let my players roll normally. Why? Because I'm the game master and I can do it that way. Does it say so in the book? No, not necessarily, but I alter the dice and the rolls as I see fit for reasons I see fit. And I'll tell the players, I say, look, you made your perception roll, you see these guys coming out of the woods, these guys are rolling at disadvantage. Besides, they're just these ruffians. They're unskilled, but they're coming for you. But not giving them a hint of how strong or weak they are. But they're not too bright, so that's why they're rolling disadvantage on their initiative check. And then let the players roll normally. Combat proceeds normally. And with these two bandits, no matter how many guys there are, what I'm probably going to do, and what I would suggest if you're doing this, the bandits, not necessarily fight to the death, maybe fight to 50% hit points, or, if you want to amp it up, spook the players, go ahead and fight them to the death. These guys, it's not going to matter too much. So you can fight these bandits to the death if you want to. Now, if the players are having a hard time, and they can at least whittle these guys down to 50%, then maybe you go ahead and have your bad guys back off, because the players obviously aren't an easy kill. If they can't kill them right away and the players get the bad guys down to 50% on hit points, go ahead and get those bad guys out of there. They're like, ah! They get scared, drop their weapons and run off, you know, and they disappear into the woods. Players try to chase them. Yeah, you make some rolls, give them some checks for like tracking or perception checks to follow them through the woods, but they'll disappear into the woods. At best, maybe they'll catch one. So anyways, that combat will happen. Something else you can do during combat is hit and run tactics. You know, run a guy up. And you know what I'll do with some of these bandits to make it more exciting, more dangerous? I'll give them stuff like multi-attack. So I'll run a guy 15 feet towards one player, I'll swing, stab a player, and then I'll have that bad guy break away, give that player attack of opportunity, and as long as that bandit's still alive, I'll run him over to another player and stab him again, and stab another player after I move another 15 feet. Because then everybody gets the love, so to speak, and everybody feels a little more endangered. And even though these bandits, they might have commoner stats, and I might give them like a short sword each, or 2 short swords, or 2 daggers, but because they can attack twice where normally the players can only attack once, they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Now I don't tell them that. I just say, yeah, these guys are pretty skilled. They're moving fast, and they got multi-attack. I mean, he just runs and stabs you and breaks off and stabs you. You know, these guys are just in a panic. They're trying to, because most player groups are going to be at least 4 guys. These 2 bandits, they're just in a hurry trying to do as much damage as possible to everybody because they're unskilled. But I'm not going to tell the players all that. I just let them assume whatever they want to assume. And if anybody wants to ask about any details of these guys during combat, details are impossible during combat. It's just not going to happen. Do they have any insignias? Do the blades have any markings? Is there anybody else in the woods? I say, well, do you want to spend an action doing that and totally ignore what these guys are doing? Or do you want to engage in combat? I give players choices. You know, it's just like kicking a door into a room and seeing 6 goblins, and the goblins getting ready to fight. But then you ask, are there any tables or chairs in the room? Is there any treasure chests? Dude, it's a room full of goblins getting ready to attack you. You don't have time to look. You're not going to look. Remember, you're the DM. What you say goes. So I'm going to resolve this combat as quick as I can. So this combat will probably take 10 or 15 minutes. And tops. This should be relatively quick. Now, when these 2 bandits attack, if the players mow them down like real quick, if they're on top of it and they make great rolls and they just kill one of these guys right away, then I'm going to throw a guy in the woods with a crossbow and have him start shooting. Why? Just to make it more tense. You know, you kill a guy, all right, great. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just throw a bad guy right in the middle of the initiative and say, okay, and now the other guy goes, and they say, wait, other guy? What do you mean other guy? Oh, there's a guy in the wood. I just say, oh, there's a guy in the woods with a crossbow, and he's taking a shot at you, and he hits you. Holy crap! We didn't know there was a guy in there. Well, exactly. He's been just sitting in the woods waiting. Of course you're not going to know. He made a stealth check. Well, my passive perception, a player will argue, is X. Well, he beat it with a stealth check. I don't need to tell them the number. I just say, well, man, he beat it. What are you going to do now? Yeah, that's it. I push on with the action. I don't worry about the little stuff because I'm in it for the adventure and they're in it for the adventure. I try to gloss over the mechanics and try to keep it all about the adventure itself and not so much about who's getting what bonus, who got what roll. Say, look, man, he beat you. Or like, well, my perception check was really good when I was actively looking for him. Man, this guy's really good. And that's got you. And see right there, I'll take the mechanics and I'll turn it on the players. So when the player says, if he had a high passive perception and he had a great perception check trying to look for other bad guys, let's say, I'll just tell him, and you know what? When he balks at not being able to find him, I'll say, and you know what? That's what bothers your character because your character is very observant. I mean, obviously your passive perception is way high and you just blew your perception score out or your perception check out of the water. And that's what worries your characters because you didn't realize that guy was there. And you know that's something you need to be worried about. What the heck is that about? And I just push on through combat. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take care of this. So that's probably going to be about 10 or 15 minutes worth of time. So far, I'm probably 40 minutes in. 40 minutes in. Now, if any of these guys survive, what am I going to do with them? Well, if they question them, one thing's for certain, if anybody's alive, they're going to ask them if they work for Dogon. Depends. You know, this right here, I intended to be just a random encounter, that there's no reason other than they're just trying to look for a quick coin and maybe some quick weapons or magic items off the players. And so if there's anybody left, maybe I'll just have them spit on the players and say, I don't have to tell you nothing. And if the players want to make their intimidation checks, well, they can do that. If they want to question him, they can do that. And at this point, I'll decide whether or not he's going to be working for Dogon. I'll probably just keep insisting that he doesn't work for Dogon because he doesn't. So I just won't worry about it. The players might kill him, they might set him free, they might throw him back to town and imprison him, they might just leave him tied to a tree. That's whatever the players want to do. So we'll say I insist that this bandit, whoever they might catch, on the off chance, he insists that he's not part of Dogon's group or thing he's got going on. He's not serving the dragon. So let's say the players tie him to a tree and they're going to come back for him later. All right, so next day they continue on. They're getting up to Dogon's place. They get through these light woods sparsely set up on top. So they want to go down and find Dogon. Now, I say that the only way Dogon comes and goes is he has a cave in the bluffs, and he flies in and out of there. And the players, you know, they'll get to the top of this bluff, and it should be pretty easy. They'll get there by morning or shortly after morning, and they'll look down, they'll see the cave, and they'll wonder how they can get down there. Then they'll scour the top to see if there's a top entrance they can get into. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say they gotta climb down to here. So hopefully they got some rope. If they don't have some rope, they're gonna be making some skill checks to go all the way down. Now, do I want the players to fall to their deaths right here at level 1? Maybe, but probably not. Because that's going to take all the fun out of it, especially in a one-shot. So what I'm going to do is generally, I think it's every 10 feet you take 1d6 falling damage. So I'm going to have the players make strength checks, and I'm a pretty nice DM. For those characters who are very nimble and agile, man, I think that applies to climbing in some aspects. Strength's important, but also too, these guys are descending. So I think strength's important, but also dexterity has something to play, or can come into play there. So I'm gonna tell the players, make a strength or dexterity check, whatever is better for you, to descend. And I like a nice median of 15 for stuff that's reasonably difficult to do. And a sheer climb down, a sea cliff, potentially wet, crumbly surface. Yeah, I think 15 is good. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say that it's probably no more than 30 feet down. They'll make like 2 checks to climb down and 1 check to get in. So even if they fail, I'm gonna say like the first time they fail, I'll say, oh, you fail. Give me another check to catch yourself. Or I say, oh, you fail, you slip. You can either make another check to catch yourself and take no damage, or I'm just gonna let you automatically catch yourself and you take a roll, and no matter what the roll is, I'll say, oh, you're only gonna take 1 point of damage. Oh, man, I'll just take that point of damage. Or if he does roll so he doesn't wanna take any damage, like if he's a wizard and his hit points are really bad, then he rolls, maybe he falls twice as much, takes extra damage, and I'm gonna say, ooh, I'll roll dice, say, ooh, what's your hit points at? And he's gonna say, oh, I got 6. He's like, ooh, man, take 3. Ooh, that's bad. But I just make up whatever number. If I roll like 12, I'm not gonna throw 12 out there, but I disguise it, I cover it. So if they make all 3 rolls, they get in without taking any damage. Every time they fail a roll, they take a point or 2. If they fail all three, basically what they're doing is they're just sliding. They just slide down. I basically describe, you fall, you hurt yourself, you cut yourself up, you take a point or two, same thing, same thing. At this very last bit, when they are trying to get into the cave, if they fail even yet again, I'll say, you fall to your death. Quick, make a dexterity check. And I just point at anybody. I just point at anybody at the table and say, quick, quick. So, okay, let me back up because I'm really excited about this. All right, so this very last climbing check right here, build up a little tension. He's climbing, he fails again, or fails for that's the only time he fails. Doesn't matter either way. He slips. I'm like, oh, and you're gonna fall to your death. That's gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's like 100 feet down. It's gonna be like 10d6. And the player's like, oh no. And then suddenly, before anybody has time to process what's happening, I say, quick, somebody make a dexterity check. Anybody except for you. Holy crap. Everybody starts rolling. Whoever's got the highest roll, I say, whew, man, you see him slip, you push everybody out of the way, you reach over and you grab him at the last second and you save him. And if that player who's got the best dexterity check has the crappiest dexterity check, like everybody rolls a 1 and he rolls a 5, you know, then I turn to somebody else and say, quick, the rest of you guys make a strength check, because the guy grabs the other player, and if he fails his check, his dexterity check to grab the player who fell, he's starting to, you know, he falls down, he's starting to slip out the cave entrance, and the other guys dog pile on top, and I'm going to say, you know, whoever's got the highest roll basically succeeds, and they're able to pull both back up. Now, if the rolls are really bad, I just say, oh, wait, I forgot. I got both of you trying to stop both these guys from falling out, so tell you what, you re-roll, but this time at advantage, and then they all get in. Building up tension, making it kind of exciting. And I push through. I try not to stall too much or to be like, or think about it. I try to just make it happen. So they get up here to Dogon, and or Dogon's place, and it should be a pretty simple place. And I'm going to write right here. I'm going to draw it out real quick. So this is Dogon's place. This is the sea cliff right here. So there's a little bit of entrance right there on the sea cliff that the players climb down into. And if they have ropes, of course, you know, they can descend without any trouble at all. You could have a little bit of tension there. Maybe the rope slips, but it holds. Or they hear the rope like it's going to break, but it doesn't. So Dogon's place should be pretty easy. It's not going to be a maze. So comes in. You're probably going to want a little place, because if you were living here, you'd want a place for supplies. Then go back a little further. You're going to want a place out of the noise. Have a little place back here for random storage, maybe. And then maybe a little passage right here. Another passage right here. This will drive them nuts. Oh, you probably can't see that. All right, so we're gonna fix it up a little bit here so you can see it. All right, so fix it up right here. All right, so passage here, then there's going to be another passage that's going to branch off going this way right here. Yeah, it's pretty good. And this is going to come back right here. There we go. Trying to get it right in the camera there for you. All right, so I've got these different areas on the map here. So the players come in and they're going to walk along here. I've got 3 main areas here in Dogon's lair. Now, this first room, going to be full of supplies and stuff. There should be some gold. There might even be some healing potions if the player's particularly hurt. There'll be like 5 healing potions. That way the players have an extra for later as a reward, or if they really need it. Should be the lowest ones possible unless the players are really hurting. If they're low level, the standard healing potion should be just fine. And then when they come in, they're going to be asking a whole bunch of questions. And what I'm going to tell them is I'm going to say, well, you know, you get here and the cave entrance isn't that big. So you assume that this is probably maybe a young dragon at best. So you don't think it's going to be too much trouble. And they're going to keep going, and the path goes left or right. The player's going to be a little bit worried here about what's going to be happening to them. So they might split up, they might not. Don't worry if players split up. Old DM's tale, essentially. It doesn't bother me. It is an inconvenience when players split up, but it's not the end of the world. Experience makes it easier. Part of the reason why you should never split the party is because then your forces are divided, and it's harder for you to defeat whatever you come up against. But also, splitting the party also lets the players kind of stretch their individuality a little bit, and also lets you challenge each player, and you can do a lot of extra stuff when the players split the party, which can be fun. You have to balance it very carefully, and I'll go at length on splitting the party in a different video and how to deal with that. But let's get back to it. So let's say now they're walking around. I'm going to say that the princess, the daughter, Ilea, is here in this chamber over here. So they find her, she'll be sleeping, she'll wake up. It looks like she's well cared for though. There's nice pillows everywhere. There's no cage or grate or anything like that. There's all these pillows and everything here, and it looks like a nice place for her to be. And at first she'll look up, and maybe at first she'll be confused because she just woke up from sleep, and she'll be like, Dogon? And they're like, no, we're here to rescue you. And then she'll look surprised, which she will be surprised. And so she's surprised that anyone's there at all to help her. So she's surprised, and then she's like, oh, wow, oh, I'm so glad you're here. What are we doing? And Ilea doesn't know anything about anything, the typical helpless princess. So basically she's going to end up being a, what do I want to say? She's a liability because she could potentially get in the way, and if Dogon in the middle of combat hits her by accident, she could die. She doesn't have any skills, low hit points. It's a problem. So then the players come around here and they find a nicer area where perhaps there's some more coins or treasure. Nothing too big now, but you know, there's also going to be a nice table. It looks like someone lives here, you know, and it's all set up for the size of a person, and they don't find anything except this nice set of living quarters, a bed, a human-sized bed and everything, a dresser, and they're all going to be here, and somebody might come down here to watch. If not, either way, I say, well, if someone's not here watching, I say, you hear something. Quick, everybody make a perception check. Oh, sounds like footsteps. But if they have someone here, then I say, oh, you see something dart outside. What do you do? A shadow crosses the entrance. What do you do? And then I give the player some time and like, is he coming in? Is he coming? You see the shadow dart by again. It's getting closer. Oh, what do we do? Can I see the dragon? No, you can't. Oh, no. Okay, so I let the players kind of figure out what they're going to do for combat. And then when Dogon arrives, he flies in on his flying carpet, and he's a man. Dogon the dragon is a man. And his carpet, his magic carpet, we can say that his magic carpet is either made this way or is kind of ratty, so it has a very wing-like shape to it. Or people just mistake his large flying carpet for wings of a dragon. Very easy. And even just a regular flying carpet, I think I would totally buy that, especially as a player. I would, you know. You figure a bunch of people late at night see something flying from the castle. What's that? A rug flapping at, 100 feet up in the air. That's going to look like a dragon, or wings or something, and their mind will go crazy and they'll think it's a dragon. So the man will come in on his flying carpet and they'll be like, is he a man or is he still a dragon in a human form? You're like, no, he could be. You've heard of such things. You've heard of dragons being able to take the shape of men. It doesn't have to be, but he's just a guy. All Dogon is basically is he's just some dude with a large flying carpet, and I'm going to randomly give him a ring of fire breathing, and I'm going to water it down. And I don't even know if this is in the DMG, but I like the idea of it. He can use it once a day, so he can't go super ham on players. Essentially, it's like level 1 burning hands, and that's it, he's done. And I'm going to give him multi-attack, because I think he should probably have it. And I'll give him maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 hit points. Basically, what I'll probably do is I'll probably let him survive a round of combat no matter how much damage the players do. so that way he doesn't die right away, and I'll have him do some hit and run stuff. Now the players could see him right here as he comes in. There could be a fight. If they try to negotiate, Dogon says, I negotiate with no man. I am Dogon the dragon. Why? Because he's got a cool ring that breathes fire. And that's how he sees himself. He sees himself as like the super bandit lord. And he will fight to the death. Or he surprises the player here. If the players are taking too much time in his lair, then I just tell the players, you hear some footsteps from behind and a gasp as the princess turns around. And then you hear, I am Dogon, the dragon. You will pay for your trespass. And combat begins. Everybody roll initiative, and it's a fight. So what I'm going to do is, so everybody can get a shot to fight Dogon, no matter how initiative goes, Dogon is going to go from person to person to person, and he's going to hurt him. Because you have multi-attack, I'm going to do my best to move him from person to person. Stick a guy, break off, go stick another guy, and act how arrogant this guy is. He comes over, he rolls to attack, he slices you, and he goes, huh. And after he swings, and whether or not he hits or whether or not he misses, he just goes, ugh, and just kind of disregards you with this aloofness, like you're almost beneath him and not worth his time, as he moves to the next character to try to hurt him because he thinks he's so tough and so unbeatable. Almost like he's just playing with the characters because that's his mindset. And so I'll at least let Dogon get around in on everybody. And then after that, what I'm going to do is, after that, then I let the natural hit points just take its course of action. So however much hit points, however much damage they've all done to him, by the time it comes back around to Dogon's turn, I'm only going to say, let's say the players managed to eke out 15 points of damage to him. Then after that, I'm going to say he's got 7 hit points left, and on Dogon's next action, but I wait for Dogon to take an action. So it comes around, Dogon's second action, I let him use the Ring of Fire Breathing, and I don't use it effectively. I try not to catch all the players. I just catch one guy or 2 guys. Try not to hit the princess because she's in a very important point, and the princess isn't going to be in the way anyways. Maybe she's dived down on the ground or whatnot. I don't know. She's out of the way because I don't want to hit the princess. So use my Ring of Fire Breathing, once a day use. That way when the players get it, it's not super overpowered. And maybe, who knows, maybe he might fry a couple of the characters, maybe not. So after that, then the players, within the next player or 2, they should be able to land enough hits to kill him. And and I do like a cinematic cut, you know, and you swing, and as you swing your sword, Dogon yells in defiance, and you stab him with your sword, you run him through, and in defiance, as a reaction, Dogon grabs you and pulls you closer, thereby sinking your sword deeper into his gut. And he's like, I will destroy you. I will come back from the bowels of hell. And you just let him die. Something dramatic, you know, do a scene cut, whatever, you know. He could be negative 800 hit points and he'd still be able to do that because I got to have some of that cool cinematic drama in there. All right, so at the end of it, players are like, whoa, we killed this guy. That's great. And if you're too worried, even me, I'm kind of worried about that Ring of Fire Breathing. That seems to be a lot of damage. I mean, 3d6 on some players, whew, that could really hurt them. You know, I'm even tempted to water that down and say maybe his Ring of Fire Breathing is only 1d6 3 times a day. So I can use it a couple times, or maybe in 1d4 damage, fire damage, you know, 3 times a day, just so that way it's a little something and it's still cool, but I water down the damage so that way it's not super overpowered, so I don't wipe out the characters. And then also too, so the players have this cool little ring they can use later, but they can trade it away, they can sell it, and I don't give a low-level character something really powerful that can tip the scales terribly in any future encounters. But it's still something cool, so I'd probably do that. I'd probably downgrade that Ring of Fire Breathing the more I thought about it, because it has a high damage output. I'd let say 3 uses a day doing 1d4 fire damage, Why? Because I'm the DM and I can make that stuff up. And so can you. And I definitely make a note of that. Definitely make a note of that. Will it require attunement? It's up to you. I'm going to say yes. Now the players have a flying carpet. Woohoo! All right, sweet. A large flying carpet? They shouldn't have something like that. They should really have to work for that. Man, it's a fantasy game. Give your players some cool loot. Nothing irritates me more than dungeon masters who don't want to give out cool stuff. Why do you players play your game? Because they want to be like the characters in Lord of the Rings or Tales of the Arabian Nights or all these other movies, books, and shows. They want to do cool stuff, they want to have cool stuff, and they want to have fun doing it. You can give players amazing stuff. You can even start players as having their own kingdom at level 1. And I'm going to do that another one of these Art of the Masters soon. Start your players out with cool stuff, because with all this bigger cool stuff like kingdoms and aircraft carriers and, space stations come a whole other set of problems that are amplified because of what they have. So there you go. So we'll come back to that later. So they kill Dogon, they rescue the princess. You might have a fatality or two, but if it's a one-shot, that's okay too, because sometimes that's what one-shots are about, is pulling out all the stops and seeing what happens. But it is nice to see the players have some chance of victory. So they will return the wayward daughter Aelia to her family, King Landry and Lady Landry, and everyone will be happy and reunited, and the king will probably give them something else too. Now also too, part of their gift is the loot that they got. And the king is so happy, of course, he pays the characters whatever else he says he's going to pay them. And what I like to do is I like to give a little extra goodwill in town. Like maybe the players get a 10% discount in town now because everybody knows them. Or the king says, whenever you come back to this town, there will always be a place for you to stay. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the castle, but there's no reason not to, because the king can easily have a guest room or something for all the players to sleep in. Or maybe it's spacious enough where each player can have their own room. Or at the very least, the king might say, I don't have room for you here in my castle, but I will always make sure that in town there is a place for you, and might give them a lodge, a little small lodge or some kind of building, 3, 4, 5 rooms, something small in town that is theirs and deeded to them, and they can do whatever they want with it. And that is the end of my one-shot. Super quick, super easy, should be able to bang that out in about 4 hours. And in this adventure right here, if I feel like all this RP and setup, we had a really good time, and that happens a lot. So with this RP, what happens is if I take too long, excuse me, and then I come to this bandit attack right here, I skip this. I'll play this for just a tense moment, maybe run players around in the dark looking for stuff that's not even there, and I'll cut the bandits right out because I don't got time to fool around. If I'm already 3 hours in, I need to hurry up and kill Dogon and get the Princess Aelia back so I can be done in 4 hours. And I love the role play, and it's hard for me to stay within this 4-hour timeline. And I love to role play because I will role play this early stuff out, and if players give me enough leash, man, I'll follow it all day. If they really into the role-playing aspect of it, we will just spend so much time in town, it'll take us forever to get the Dogon. And I've had one-shots turn into 2 nighters, so instead of being 4 hours, they end up being about 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours. So keep it short and simple. This is super short and simple. I talk fast. Watch this episode again, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is super easy. This is super cool. Now, what I intend to do is I left a lot of things open. Like Aelia, I left a lot of stuff about the town out. It's a port town. It's a port town, man. I mean, they're connected. There's so much that could be happening. And what I'm going to do is in the next episode of The Art of the Master, I'm going to turn my one-shot into a mini campaign. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn this into just from the one shot to probably it's going to last you about 3 months, about 12 sessions. That's what I'm going to be looking on doing. I'm going to extend this. So I really appreciate you coming in and checking out my Art of the Master episode, campaign design, starting with a one shot. And again, I hope I didn't go too fast, but if I did, I think there's so much material here, I think you should stop this episode, go grab yourself a drink and a snack, maybe take a restroom break, sit down, turn down the lights, grab a spiral notebook, take some notes while you're watching this again. Because this is good material here. I'm telling you, this is good material. And it's all from a simple rescue. And you wait until I take this rescue and turn it into something else. So, again, I appreciate you stopping by and checking out this episode's content. And the next episode, if you're watching this episode, the next episode is going to be out shortly hereafter. So this episode will probably drop on a Tuesday or Thursday. And the next Tuesday or Thursday, the episode following up this will be coming out. So again, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, thanking you for watching The Art of the Master and taking this adventure with me. And I'm telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon. Booyah!